Hello and welcome to Conscious TV. I'm Iain McNay, and today the guest in the studio is Michael Barnett. Hi Michael.
Hello.
And Michael is an extraordinary man in many ways. I think he's written 34 books. He's led hundreds and hundreds of seminars around the world. He's an energy master amongst other things. And we're going to find out about his life, himself as a human being, and also beyond being a human being. So, Michael, I've never met you before. I've never been to any of your workshops, but you've come recommended many times by viewers writing into Conscious TV saying we'd really like you to interview Michael Barnett. And someone sent me a book called Time is an Illusion, which you didn't write, but actually is stories about you. And you wrote, there was someone who sent me the book called Madeira, and you actually wrote in the inscription in the front, the truth comes sideways. What does that mean for you, the truth comes sideways?
It means, for example, that in order to tune into you as a human being, and I don't want so much any information about you, although we've been chatting for a while, it means that you come to me sideways through some kind of resonance and a sense of how you are behind anything you might portray yourself as being, and I can pick up the quality of people and of everything around in this way, and it always comes sideways. I don't have to work it out. I mean, forward for me is working it out, following a line, maybe of analysis or search, step by step, and find out about him, and then where's he comes from, and is he married, and so on. And that's the normal way that we get to know people. And that gives you a lot of information, but it doesn't really tell you what the person's really like. So for me, I learn about people from just picking up on them through receptivity and resonance. There's a great story about a Swiss train engine that was very powerful and could go up all the mountains in Switzerland, and it became very famous, and people used to come and revere it and almost bow down to it, this magnificent engine. And one day a little boy came and said, Mr. Steam Engine, I know you have a fantastic reputation for power, but for me, could you maybe just move maybe 1 foot to the left off your rails? And the train huffed and puffed, and it couldn't do it, because its power was always straight ahead, getting to the next goal, achieving some new height in its power, with its powers. And the little boy wanted just this sideways shift, and the engine couldn't do it. And many people are like that. They can achieve, they can get to places, they can set up goals and attain their goals, but they're not really in touch with life in a sideways way, with nature, with other people, with life itself.
We are very fixed on goals, aren't we, as human beings? It's almost like we're taught that achieving a goal is success.
Part of our culture, yeah. To achieve, from the very beginning of our education, to achieve good results in exams, get a job, get managing director, get CEO, make money, get a good house, get a good car. It's always ahead, go for it. Just do it and go for it. That's the famous motto, isn't it, these days? Just do it and go for it.
Absolutely. There's a big
shoe
company that's adopted it. Yeah.
Be where you are.
Yeah. So one of the stories in this book that I really liked was the story of a Punch and Judy show when you were 7 years old.
Yeah.
Do you want to just tell us that briefly?
Well, when I was that age, my family regularly each year would go to Broadstairs, between Margate and Ramsgate.
Yes, that's just for people outside the UK. That's on the Kent coast, bottom east of England.
That's the place. And we used to go there every year. And there was this Punch and Judy show that was somehow on the cliff top. There was a green, and there were many things going on this cliff top. And then one that we always went in the evenings, early evening, my brother and I, was to the Punch and Judy show. So he was a couple of years older than me, so he would take my hand, because I was still, maybe I was younger than 8, maybe I was 6, he was 8. And somehow I lost him on the way there. I lost his hand. I couldn't see him, couldn't find him, so I had to find it for myself. Well, you know the Punch and Judy show. You have Punch and Judy and the Doc Toby, and they're always arguing and beating each other up and so on. And typical, in a way, domicile situation, or at least in some respects. And I got lost, and instead of coming to where everybody was sitting on the ground, the kids on the ground and the adults on the deck chairs, I came from behind. And then I saw this man in the box, and in one hand was Punch, and one hand was Judy, and one thumb was Toby. And I thought, Punch and Judy, all these conflicts that they're having, I watch every year, they are the same person. And I don't know, I mean, at that age, I couldn't be too philosophical about it, but it's like a lot of the stories in this book, which things that happened to me when I was young, that they showed up, this significance showed up much later in my life. You know, I'm a great believer in teleology. Teleology says the future influences the present, whereas the normal view is that the past influences the present, and that's always a cause and effect. But there are so many of these stories in there and in my life where I see that, in fact, I was being drawn towards something. So many times, and when I've wanted to do something in my life, where I've set my heart on something, again and again something at the last minute or soon near the end would interfere, and I couldn't get it, and I was frustrated and hurt and upset. But all the time I had a feeling that now I look, it was a great thing that I got diverted away from it, because I had to come the way that I've gone.
So something was did you feel something was pulling you in life from an early age?
Not until much later, but I feel that it started was doing so. There was this great story, which is also in there, about when I was at school during the war, and we were evacuated to Bedford, and we were sharing a school with Bedford Modern School. And we had one lesson a week, a music lesson, which was given by a teacher from the host school. And he was not interested in teaching us anything, so it was just a really boring lesson, the most boring lesson of the week. And we all used to have a little sleep and just chat around, and he didn't mind. And one day he came in, and he just walked in, and he put a tuning fork in one boy's pocket here, and he put another tuning fork, opened his desk and put a tuning fork in there. He opened the cupboard, put one in there. He went to the windowsill and put one in there. He put 6 or 7 tuning forks around the room without saying a word. And he took one and he hit it like this to make a sound of a tuning fork, and all the other tuning forks began to vibrate and ring in the same way. And I was sitting at the back of the class, half asleep, when this happened. I sat bolt upright, and my hair, which I had a lot of in those days, stood up on end. I was sweating, I was trembling, my teeth were chattering, and I never knew why. But resonance is the basis of today, or for some time now, of my work. But I had no idea why I was being affected, but it was going to be tremendously significant for me, this event, and what that represented for me in my life later on.
So that was the first time you experienced resonance without necessarily knowing what it was.
Yes. But now it's the basis of my work.
Yeah. Because you've had a very interesting life, because when you were, I think, 18, we still had national service in the UK, which means you had to go in the army for a couple of years. Yes, and I think when you were
in the signals in Catterick Camp,
and you were a drill sergeant, was that right?
I was a drill sergeant.
Yeah, were you quite a ferocious drill sergeant?
Yes.
You enjoyed
in a nice way.
Yes,
I was. I mean, it's like when it's needed, I can be like that, and when it's not needed, then I'm not like that.
Yeah.
But to be a drill sergeant, you need to be stern, and you need to be forceful, and you need to be precise, and you need to be tough with people who are not following the instructions, because then the whole squad is then distorted. So was the job, so I did it, and I enjoyed. I had that aspect in me to be able to do that. But I wasn't only a drill sergeant. I was also working as a teacher to radio mechanics. So I went through the course and then became a teacher there as well. And this was also a side job for me, was to be a drill sergeant.
And then I think you went to university and learned law, is that correct?
Well, maths at first.
Maths, okay.
I did maths for 2 years, and then I switched to law.
Yeah.
I switched from maths because the further you go in maths, which I was good at school, the more important it is to have a certain kind of mind. So I would spend maybe 2 hours over a problem, and my colleague or my fellow student, he would say, oh, this one, oh, da-da-da-da-da. I did it in 3 minutes. Because a certain kind of mind can see through a problem, maybe the way I now can always see through often people's trips, you know. So a maths mind can do that. And I realized I didn't have this mind, and that I would always be sort of lagging behind the top people. So I thought I would change to something that maybe I had more natural ability at, which was more resonant for me. So somehow I found law, and I did 3 years' work in 1 year, and I got top marks, and I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
So were you aware at that time that there was possibly something guiding you, or was it just that you just got on with, it was one step in front of the other?
It was one step at a time, but now when I look back, I feel sure that I was being guided.
Yeah.
I had the feeling that I couldn't be, provided I remained open and didn't implant my own ideas that I'm going to do this no matter what. If I wasn't that kind of person, that I'm going to become a doctor and that's the finish. I didn't have anything somehow set in me like that as a future possibility or as an aim in life. But as long as I stayed open, that I would be drawn like a river to the ocean, as I often say. I would be drawn to where I am now. And it feels as if there was no possibility of me being anywhere else than all my life than where I find myself today doing what I'm doing.
Because you were then a businessman for a time, and then you worked as a psychiatric nurse. That's a big change.
Yes, I did.
Going for studying law.
Then I went abroad, and I did travelling for 4.5 years.
Yes.
I travelled around a lot of the world.
Yeah.
And just doing things and writing articles for magazines and newspapers. I taught in Australia for the first time. In Singapore, I got a job as a teacher, although I'd never taught before because they were short at the English school there. Then I went to Australia and I taught in Perth, and then I went across to Sydney and I got a job there teaching in a school. This was something I'd never done before, but I did it just for economic reasons. I was there with my first wife, and we had to live. So that's how I maintained us.
The first time I heard your name was when I saw a review of a book you wrote called People Not Psychiatry. And I guess that came out of your experience of being a psychiatric nurse. And I don't
know. This all began, I had no connection really with psychiatry. And then during my travels, as I was heading back to England, I was in Tokyo, and I went into the British Council library there and picked up a book from the shelf at random, and the book was The Self and Others by R.D. Laing. And I sat in the library and opened it and started to read, and I thought, but this is me writing this book, although I'd never written anything about such subjects. In other words, it simply spoke to my heart, totally. And then when I got to England, the first thing I did was to contact R.D. Laing and ask if I could come and see him, which I did. And then I had several contacts with him, and then I met the people that were in his kind of gang there, his supporters of this anti-psychiatry world. I met a lot of them, I made connections with them. Then I did this time as a nurse in a psychiatric community, which was fascinating. And then the time came when I left that, and then I set up this network, People Not Psychiatry, PNP. And this book that you speak about was my version of what had happened there in a couple of years that I was involved in it.
So just briefly, how was that different to how psychiatric cases were treated at that time?
Well, at that time, they were quite severe. Lobotomies were happening, electroconvulsive treatment was happening. It was quite extreme, and I guess out of my experience as a nurse and out of my talks with the Laing crowd, it became clear to me that there could be better ways. So I wrote a letter in what was called the magazine called the International Times, which was coming out at that time. It was like the underground newspaper called International Times, and I wrote an article in it saying there are better ways, and just by being with people and sharing our innermost hearts, things could be achieved. And then the phone didn't stop ringing for weeks, and people were coming to the door day and night saying, can we join this, whatever yours, can we help, can we get together and explore these new ways that maybe you think will work for us. And so we set up meetings in my apartment in Hampstead, Haverstock Hill. And then I got some other people to host the meetings on other evenings. So on Monday night it was at my place, and Tuesday night it would be at John's place, on Wednesday nights it would be at Susan's place. So people could gather and just be together. And somehow out of this, in a way, the work I'm doing now, I think, started from just being with people.
Bringing people together.
Bringing them together, and people who needed something.
Yeah, because you then formed Community, which was a growth centre.
Yeah, that's right.
And I just remember this actually, many years ago I did come to Community, and I did a course of 8 or 10 encounter groups.
Evening.
Evening groups.
Yeah. Ongoing group, we call them.
Yeah, and it was just fascinating, because it was a completely different way of, for me, being kind of a businessman, or at the time I basically was, coming along to that, and just interacting with people, and then just being open with how you felt was extraordinary release, actually. It was a very special time, because it was just starting in London, wasn't it?
That's right, just starting, yeah. Quesitor had started, Paula had started Quesitor. And then I joined a guy called Bill Grossman, American guy, who was a centre called Kaleidoscope, which was the other centre. And he invited me to join him as a co-director. And he went off to America and said he'd be back in 3 months, and he didn't come back in 3 months, he didn't come back in 6 months, he didn't come back in 9 months, he didn't come back in a year. And meanwhile the financial situation was so, from debts from his time or whatever, so I scrapped it. And then in the same place I started Community from myself, because he didn't reappear.
Yes.
So that's where Community came from. And then I was doing these open evenings regularly, almost every evening of the week, and weekend workshops almost every weekend. Marathons, we used to do them too. So it was a strong time, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And it was kind of, it was new, it was totally new. I mean, it was new to us, few who were doing it. That was like Denny Houston, who became Viresh, and Sudha, who was his wife, Lena Eunice. I mean, they were doing groups, I knew them well. But we were pioneers then. And we were learning as we were going along.
Yes.
It wasn't like some
Must
people...
It was incredibly exciting, actually.
Yeah, it was, yes. And then a lot of group leaders would come from Esselen, and they would do weekend seminars, and sometimes I would go to learn or just to participate in them. But for us, I mean, we were complete novices, and yet maybe we had some inner capacity to do this work, or we had a resonance with what was going on, and we just went into it, and somehow we flowed with everybody else, but somehow just doing our education in public, as it said, finding out about things, not just from reading or from exploring our inner world, but from working with people, was a great teaching for us too. So we were teachers who were being taught through the teaching ourselves.
And then it was interesting, because most of the people you mentioned there were then drawn to go and see Bhagwan Shree Rajneesh, who at that time was in India. Yeah. And I think what happened with you from looking into this book, was that you actually were having dinner at Claire Soloway's house, who was Paulo's wife, and she showed you a picture of Bhagwan. Yeah. And then it was that picture you just thought, yes, this is somebody interesting here. Yeah.
What I felt resonance, I guess. The word, I wouldn't have used that at the time, but I would use that word now. I felt a tremendous resonance, which I feel now. I get a lot of people coming to my seminars, and sometimes, quite often, someone comes and I look at them and it's not, looks like a nice guy or interesting woman or whatever. It's like, boing. As if I've met them somewhere, maybe a past life, or our energies are tremendously resonant, and it's like, boing. And I felt that when I saw this picture, because before that I'd heard about him, but I hadn't conceived of going at all. It was just something that Paul had done and other people were doing, but I was happy what I was doing, And then I saw this picture, and I said to Claire, or Poona, she was there, one day I said, I will go and see this guy.
So you felt a resonance, you felt a pull somehow, but you went quite quickly, didn't you?
Not so soon, no, I didn't. Then I carried on with my work, and then in the middle, no, towards the end of a 48-hour marathon that I was doing, suddenly on the 47th hour, I was somebody, and we used to have somebody going in the centre, and we would all work with them, and I'd suggest things that they explore and use the other people to stand for other people, you know, a bit like psychodrama or something, to work, try and get the person to clear some problem they had, you know. And there was one person in the centre, and I was initiating what we're going to do to work out the problem for this guy or to assist him. And suddenly my eyes closed, I went completely silent. I can remember now. I went completely silent, and I didn't say anything, maybe for half an hour. And then I opened my eyes and said, I've decided to stop working because it's come to me that I have to get enlightened this lifetime, and that this work that I'm doing will not take me there. So I have to stop and find another way of getting there. And then I carried on and finished with this person, and then slowly I let my groups go. And then I did the Avika training that was quite popular at that time, in the early 70s. The Avika training, I don't really have heard of that. Yeah, many people were doing that. And that was good, but it didn't
I'm interested
do
in
the
these
trick.
words.
Yeah.
You had to get enlightened in this lifetime. What did that mean to you then?
Not much.
Not much, really?
Not much, because it wasn't, you know, in England it wasn't, you know, if you've been in India, you know, or been working with lamas or something, then of course as a principal value, you know, to get enlightened. And this is the whole purpose of going into holy traditions and somehow, you know, to get enlightened. But in England it was not so. I mean, I'd read a bit, but not. I was not really in that world of people who were seeking enlightenment. I was doing my encounter work, body work. You know. This was the level on which I was working, and which fitted me, and which I had some skills at. You know, and then enlightenment was not something I'd thought before. Well, that's the purpose of my life. So when it again, like the work I'm saying, would come, all my work. Even most of the work that I do now, all the meditations, many meditations, I have created. Many of the structures we do in our trainings, they all came more or less while I was doing a group, and then the words would come like pick a partner or do this or do this, and it would be the first I'd heard of it. Yeah. So it was coming through me in a way. So in a way, these words came through me. I hadn't been thinking about it. And that's why I was the silence. It wasn't said, no, I have an announcement to make. I have decided to get enlightened, whatever that might mean to me at the time. It was a silence, and out of that silence came the statement.
Okay.
And then and that was it. You know, I didn't say, right now, where were the books about how to get enlightened? I mean, I carried on my life. But somehow I put that it's somewhere deep inside me that's what I wanted. That felt like the true purpose of my life. Whatever it was, which I didn't really know at that time.
So you went to India.
Then I went to India, yeah.
You saw Bhagwan and you took sannyas and you got your name
immediately.
Samendra.
Well, I didn't take sannyas, he gave it to me. The first morning I was in there, I arrived during the night, and on the plane going to Bombay, there was a girl that I had been on a group with me in England, and she was already a sannyasin. So when we arrived in Bombay and took the car to Poona, she said, come to my apartment. And I went to the apartment, and she was sitting in an apartment with 6 guys, all of whom I knew from the English scene. And then I went in the morning to the meditation, the dynamic meditation, and did that, and then I got told to go to the talk, the morning talk. There were about 100 people then. And at the end of the talk, Bhagwan walked down the stairs. He came over to me as I was sitting there, and he said, I've been waiting for you. I'm glad you've come. And I thought, well, that's normal procedure, but it's the only time he ever did that. But he said to me. So then he said, you come to Darshan tonight. So I went to Darshan, and I was wearing a shirt which had some orange on it. That was just a coincidence, you know. And he said, I see you're wearing orange already. I said, well, no, this is just... He said, come here. He said, I've got your name already. I mean, I didn't even have to ask. He just pulled me took me by the hand, pulled me in front of him. The name is Samantha, means God of the full moon. So that's how it happened. That's destiny. I was following my destiny, but he was instrumental, of course, in making sure I found the right line.
And then you were quite quickly running workshops there?
Well, when I went there first in '74, there were no workshops. And then slowly, Enlightenment Intensive started, and then Paul Lowe started doing counter groups. And then I remember he got ill, and they came to me that first year that I was there and said, Paul Lowe is ill, you have to take the group over. I said, I can't do that. He said, but you were doing groups in London. I said, yes, I know, but that was a lifetime ago. I was editing books then. I said, I can't do it. Bhagwan says, you have to do it. I said, I'm hopeless. I've got no idea what to do. You go. So I went in to this group. I mean, midway, but like a 5-day group or something, and it was the third day, and I went in and saw this crowd, and I thought, what the hell am I going to do? And suddenly everybody went bananas. I went to the what way, but this was happening, that was something. I was just sitting there, and the whole group was happening around me in a totally intense and crazy way. And I hadn't said a word or done anything yet. And so I just began to take over the reins of what this crazy happenings that were going on in this room. And then later on, I got my own groups. Yeah.
And did you feel you found enlightenment there?
No. No, I didn't.
No.
No, I didn't. I don't know whether you can find enlightenment that way. But of course, a tremendous contribution came from there.
Yeah.
I mean, I never felt, like many of my friends there did, that this was it. That many of my friends are still sannyasins, or they're still involved with the sannyasi movement, or they still revere their master. You know? But I always felt, from the very beginning, and it never changed, that I was passing through. I mean, I had tremendous love and admiration and respect for this guy, Rajneesh. I thought he was a fantastic person. But I never felt that somehow I belonged with him. I always felt that he was a teacher for me. And I think the most important aspect of his teaching was that he was such a powerful person, not in a negative way. I mean, just his presence was so powerful. And we had, 100,000 disciples? So many people were coming there from all over the world. I mean, people that were successful people, skillful people, they felt they could get something from him. I mean, such power as a human being, not in an aggressive way, but the power was there. And to deal with him, because I was close to him the whole time I was there, I was one of the special people there, to actually find my way of dealing with him and yet still keeping my own spirit and soul, was a tremendous challenge. And that's, for me, mostly what he gave me. Not exactly a competition, no, but somehow having to deal with this great man without, in a way, saying, I'm yours, although in a way I was, but only up to a point, There's something, no question behind that I was preserving that was not included in this setup that I was part of.
And you were there with him as a sannyasin for how many years altogether? Just roughly?
Well, I went in '74, and then I was there a year, and then I went back to England for a while, and then I went for 6 weeks, I think in '76, and then he told me, you have to come back for good. And so I went back to England and finished off the courses I was doing. So I went in '77, and I was there until '80, and in 1980, I suddenly felt I have to go back. It's finished for me here. And he said, okay. So I went back, and then I started alchemy with Persephone.
Right.
In her home. She met me from the plane, and we went back to her place near Mornington Crescent, Camden Town, and I set up alchemy. I remember alchemy, and the first I said, okay, There was a Kaptaru with the Sannyasin Centre there.
I remember it in Camden Town, yeah.
Happening in Camden Town.
Yeah.
I said, okay, on Thursday night we do an evening group. And we had 250 people packing that place because, you know, everybody knew, and they were sannyasins mostly, of course, but then they knew I was the first one in a way of the well-known guys from that field to come back.
To move on, yeah.
To come back.
But how was it for you to leave?
Oh, that was easy. To leave Poona was easy, but to leave when I broke up with the Sannyasin movement in the ranch in '82, that was not easy.
Because I remember that when you left, he was quite negative, or publicly quite negative to you.
Yes, he was.
And someone told me the story that they were in a group with you in Berlin when you took off your mala for the first time, and that was quite a big thing for you.
No, it wasn't like that. The story of the Berlin group was that I had taken off my mala for a couple of months, although I was still wearing orange, but I just had a feeling to take my mala off. And then, in the Berlin group, which was a large number, 200 people or so were there, and I had some great experience, and I was lying down from this experience, and I said to one of my assistants, go and get my mala from my bag. I carried it always in my bag.
Yeah.
So she went and got the mala, and she put it on me, and I thought to myself then, now I'm enlightened. At that point, I thought, now I'm enlightened, and I'm going to join my enlightenment circle with my master's circle. I'm going to join him. I'm not going to separate. I'm going to become one with him. That's my feeling. And then when he told the story in Poona, he said that Samendra was on the floor. He couldn't get up, and then he was completely paralysed, and someone went and got his mala and put it on him, and then he could get up. I mean, that was the kind of crafty thing. Unscrupulous, just because that fitted the way he wanted to look at what was happening.
But you see it as a positive experience from what you were saying earlier. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And have you found do you feel you've found enlightenment now?
Yes. Yeah.
Is there a point or a time that experience or something that you can talk about?
I think it's a spasmodic. My experience is it's a spasmodic thing at first. That you fall into it. I mean, it's easy to fall into it. I mean, I think almost everybody that I work with, after at least one or two groups, has an experience of enlightenment. I see it. I can see it. Just as I looked at Bhagwan and said, this guy's enlightened, so I can look at my guys, my students, my guys who come and say, right now this guy or this woman is enlightened. But it doesn't stick. It's just they fall. It's like, for me, enlightenment is a space. It's a vibration. This is why I work with energy. It's a state of being that if you find the vibration of enlightenment, you'll be in an enlightened space. If you vibrate, I mean, when people who are enlightened, they're vibrating, if you like, at the cosmic vibration. So they are one with everything. And this is what I try to bring people to, and this is what I experience myself. That they are one beyond the form. Of course, all forms are different. You know, this is not vibrating at the same way that the table is, and I'm not vibrating the same way as you are. But there's a ground vibration, there's a basic vibration out of which all the other form vibrations come, a formless vibration. And if you hit that, and you're one with the cosmos, then you're in an enlightened space, because that's what enlightenment is for me, to be one with everything, to be relaxed, to feel you've found your place in life itself, in the timeless and eternal life itself, that you've found your place in it. You fit. You have a place there. We all have a place there because we're part of it. And then you fall like on a pinball machine where the ball goes blah, 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 and it falls in his pocket. It's like you fall in the pocket there. But people fall in the pocket and they jump out, and they jump out 1,000 times because the world pulls them off. And so the vibration changes, and then they have a worldly vibration, or a family vibration, or a work vibration, or a friendship vibration, or a stone vibration. You know, so they flit off into other levels of reality. You know, but when they're in the seminar and with other people who are there, who know me, mostly when I go to a group, 80-90% of people who work with me once, twice, up to 50 times. You know, we can have regular people. So the vibration, to fall into this level of vibration, can happen even to a new person. within an hour or two. You know?
But isn't this like a Satori experience?
Yes,
like a
it
glimpse
is.
of the truth.
It's like a short vibrational experience. But the more you go there, the more you become familiar with it, or that place begins to, we say take, this wedding, it takes in you, it begins to take in you. And so you may have to go there 1,000 times, but then each time you go, it's not like you've just gone for the 1,000th time, you've gone, it's like, you know, like the termite that eats up the last bit of the house and the house falls, you know. You know, if you have termites eating away at the foundations of a house, the house is still standing until the last bite, you know, and then it collapses. You know, or one tiny little termite taking the last bit of wood away, and the house falls. So it's a bit like that. You know,
and what happens when the house falls?
Well, then you're level. You're level, and there's no form, and you're in a state of silence and stillness and oneness.
And that's how you feel.
Yes.
So how is that?
Well, it's beautiful.
It must be. Yeah.
Yes, it is. And in a way, almost nothing bothers you anymore. You can come off it and then get impatient, you know, because the train is late or something. Yeah. But if you're just settled in yourself, then it's not. You don't have to search for it. You fall into it. Once it's really established, you don't have to do any work for it. You don't have to sort of try and empty the mind, you know. And then somehow, like meditation, sit down there and so like clear the mind. So now I'm feeling. Watch my breathing. The techniques that you have to get to that place, you know. You don't need to do that anymore. You just go click and you're in it.
Yeah. And do you find your personality has changed because of that? Your human personality?
I don't know. You would have to ask other people who've known me a long time, I think. I don't know. I mean, I guess, sure. I mean, you have to still come through. I mean, when you're in this place which is beyond form, I mean, you can't stay there, and you really don't want to stay there because, you know, you're not in heaven or in paradise or the oneness or where everybody goes at the end of the game, you know. You don't want to go there, you know, because you're still in the body and you still have attractions, you still have impulses, you're still drawn, you know, you're still responding to life. You're still responding to life. So it's a resting place, and you can stay there. I can stay there for several hours, and I can move into life and still be in there at the same time. So you don't turn away from life, you go back into life. I mean, the world disappears when you fall into it. There is no world. There's no anything. There's no forms or anything. It's just oneness. And then the world comes back, and then you can move into it, but you come into it from that place of oneness, of unity, of wholeness. And there's a different game then. But you still have to use, I still use the same gestures, you know, the same smile, the same, I don't know, I mean, somehow something extra is there. You bring something from that place. You sure bring something, but you still bring it through, I guess, the old form. So
I know that you're still doing this amazing energy work. Yeah. So how does that create itself through you? So you're going into a workshop and there's, I don't know, 100 people there, whatever. Is it like you feel something coming into you, or is it just something that's available? Just talk me through what goes.
It comes from everywhere. I walk into the room on a Friday evening, let's say, for a weekend seminar, and the moment I walk in, I'm in it. I mean, I guess I'm in it before I walk in, but I'm involved getting there, you know, talking to people when I arrive and tell me this is where the toilet is, you know, it's where you have your break in here, you know. But I walk into the group and they're all sitting there, because the thing is, when I go into the group of the people in there, probably 70-80% know me, I've been before. So they're already, in a way, they're already tuned in. You know, it's not that they're tuning in, the master's coming, we have to sit quietly, is that it's already happening. Like the resonance, they know I'm coming, and we've met before. You see, the fantastic thing about this work you do, that when we meet in that space that we are in together, and then you don't see a person for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, you meet them and it's hi. It's not, oh my God, no, yeah, what have you been doing? Like normal people, like, what's history? You've got married. It's like you meet them in the same way as you met them 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Because this is the time, is an illusion. That on that level that I'm talking about, there is no time. No, there really isn't, because there's no change. So if there's no change, there's no time. it's like a universal place which includes all time. Every moment is there. It's not there's no time, but every moment is in the same place. It's like boom, 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 all coming out of the same place. Not dun 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 dun, not in a sequence, but boom, 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 boom. This moment, next moment, next moment, next moment, like a fountain of time coming out. But at the bottom of the fountain, nothing is happening. It's always the same. So you get this feeling. Yeah? So when people meet, it's like they're back there again together, and it's like hug. I mean, you're like, yesterday I saw you. It was 10 years ago, but it feels like yesterday. Or hi. So when I walk in, there's a lot of these people sitting there, and it's like bang, instant from the instant I walk in, it's bang, like that, and they're all sitting there, and suddenly we all go. We're all drawn. Maybe some of the new people are saying, "What's going on?" They're looking there at me, and suddenly, after 5 or 10 minutes, they go. Everybody, not just me, pulls them into their place, and we have this extraordinary energy in the room. And then that's in the room then, and it's touching people, and then I'm enveloped in it. It's both around me, all around me, and in me. It's almost I vanish. It's just this energy, and then I'm guided. I don't say I'll go to this person, then I walk around the room, maybe move somebody there, you stand here, no, you just like that and that. I set up a kind of energy field, and then I walk through the energy field like this, and people fall over, have experiences, because but they're all resonating with what I'm bringing, because we're all the same. We all have the same capacities to resonate with this infinite energy.
So it really goes back to the tuning fork thing at school.
Tuning fork,
Yeah.
So I come in, I go bowing, and everybody else goes like that. But the other energies are still there. So if I come and intensify that basic energy, which is the most potent energy there is, then almost always people fall over. Even if I don't touch them, they fall over. If I stand in front of them. Because that energy, in a way, takes over the other levels of energy upon which they're standing, And you're standing there, it's like, this is me, my personality, my likes and dislikes, my yeses, my nos, my belief systems, my attitudes, my values. It's all in the way a person stands there, and the shape of their face, the way their energy is arranged. And I come in and maybe with one finger, I touch the shoulder like this, and they fall over. Because I come into the whole system, and then it's like having a carpet pulled under your feet. And you fall until you can't fall anymore. Then you put a carpet under his feet, and nothing happens. And the person's landed, like on the basic, on the ground. I mean, on the, not this ground, but also includes this ground, but on the ground of being.
Yeah, it strikes me as you talk about how alive you are talking about this. And I know that we were talking earlier, you're nearly 80 years old. And did you feel your energy force is still as vital as ever, pretty much? More so.
Yeah, but physically, of course, I'm affected by the length of time that my body's been functioning, and so things are not, of course, working quite the same way as they were when I was younger, that's for sure. But that seems to be distinct from this energy world or space that I live in and work in. That feels as stronger, that it gets stronger and stronger all the time.
And the fact your body is not working as well as it used to doesn't really affect you, because you are the energy, not the body, and you know that.
That's right. But of course, the body, although it feels like the body is something here, and the energy I'm working with is much more subtle and fine, and it's all around, but that energy is also part of the body system, because as we know, there's all space. The cells and the electrons, what we're made up of, is all space.
Yes.
And out there it's all space. So the space within corresponds with the place outside. So it's not that I'm working out, from my body, but when I'm working, my body also goes into that space. The level of my physicality shifts to the same subtle level. So my body, during that time, I never get any trouble with my body when I'm working, because my body is functioning also. It's not just that it's on one side, but it resonates with the energy that is everywhere, with this cosmic energy that I work with. So my body also resonates with that, as other people also bodies resonate with it. So in a way, the body is not a separate thing when I'm working. But then when I finish, then my energy is not flowing anymore because I'm not being full. Then of course, I fall more into the physical aspects of my body, and then then there are pains and troubles come up and so on, and that's, I guess, inevitable. Well, I don't know if it's inevitable. I guess eventually it is. I mean, that was always, many years ago, the feeling that this is what I would like to make, that the gift I give to the world is how to bring this cosmic energy, this subtle energy, into healing the body directly, not through specific practices, you know.
Yes.
So I guess if you say, well, I look good for my age, I guess that is happening. But I would more like to be able to make it more foremost, that is it possible really to, how far is it possible for this invisible energy, universal energy, to actually be introduced to the body, to get the body to vibrate on that level, and then for that very subtle vibration that's part of the body, to bring that into the less subtle parts of the body, you know, to bring it into actually the organs, the functioning organs, so that the whole system gets in a way light to it. So it's light, this energy, pure light. You know? And therefore it would renew it, you know, or to bring the true... there's the whole thing about vibrational medicine, which some people are exploring, and some people I know are exploring, because I was saying a long time ago that if you've got something going wrong in the lungs or the kidneys or whatever, that means that it's not functioning, but it's true vibration. It's gone off. You know, the vibration's been distorted in some way. Some other factors come in and stop the true vibration. But if you could bring something, maybe hands or something like that would restore the true vibration, then the illness or the trouble, and it could not exist.
Yeah, it's interesting now that leading edge physics, leading edge biology is all coming together with energy, and a lot of them are saying very similar things. And we had Rupert Sheldrake on Conscious Duty quite recently. He talks about morphic fields.
Yes, I know.
Of course.
That's also, I would say morphic fields is another name for what I'm talking about.
What you're talking about, yes.
That's all in the air anyway.
So we have about 5 minutes left. I know that we didn't even have time to talk about the Wild Goose movement, but that was part of the detail of your movement of your work.
I guess.
You now have Energy World. I know you're living near Freiburg in Germany now, and you're still travelling a lot, doing workshops all over the world. Yeah. And people still come. And somewhere the energy still moves. And,
what do you mean by still?
Well, I didn't. There wasn't particularly a charge behind the word still. It's just people still come, and everything still works. And that momentum we touched on earlier in your life is still, there's still a movement there, isn't there? There's still a movement forward, and
there is. Yeah. I feel anyway that it's not up to me in any case. I think once you agree to be part of this flow of energy of towards the sea, which is where I think we all come from and where we all go back to, then that becomes you in a way. That's who you are. It's not only what you do. It's who you are. So I don't feel I have any choice, let's put it that way. I don't feel I have any choice other than to go on the way that I'm going on. Not that I would feel I want to make a choice, but in any case, I don't think I have a choice.
Do you ever have regrets about anything?
No.
It must be wonderful to have...
No regrets about anything. I feel everything that happened, that needed to happen, is how it is. I mean, if you arrive at a whole feeling of wholeness and being somehow who you were meant to be, then how can you challenge anything that happened? Because if it happened in a different way, maybe you wouldn't be here, So everything seems to have contributed, everything, in its own way. However, one might look at it from the mind and say that was a negative experience, or that set me back, or that took me off on a detour, You can't say that.
I know we were discussing earlier that you do have a love of Arsenal Football Club. Isn't there a slight regret there they haven't won anything for 5 years?
Well, I think as long as they've been playing such beautiful football, and of course I watch them in Germany, every game, If it's on live, I watch it, and if it's only on Match of the Day, then I watch it at that. That they were playing such beautiful football that it didn't matter. But when they go off like they did at the end of the last season, you know, in the last few games and losing all these games, then I get disappointed simply because they're not playing up to scratch. I mean, they can do a lot better. They're just playing badly. But I saw my first game when I was 6 years old, and I even remember the team that was playing at that time. And I watched them when I lived in London, when I was a young man. I never missed a game. So I've seen them, you know, finish 14th and 16th and 12th, you know, and I've seen them labour. I've seen them playing with sort of 8 average players and 2 or 3 good players. So I've been through thick and thin with them, Ian, you know.
That's what one does as a football fan.
Compared to that, you know, coming third, you know, and getting into the Champions League year after year, was it 12 years or something since Arsene came, you know, they've managed to get into the knockout part, whatever, you know, get them to the Champions League. Well, I mean, this is richness. Of course, if they win things, it's great. But I mean, I think, and also the way the club is run compared with, say, Chelsea and whatever, you know, as far as economy is concerned. I mean, they're not going to go out and buy these, you know, gaga players at all. You're not going to do it. They're going to have to bring people who are good to make them very good, and from very good, excellent. And this is the process that it does. You can't expect any more.
I think it is very much, I think we've touched on an important point here, it is very much the beauty of the game, of the flow of life. And if we get too attached to the achievement or the end goal, there's going to be disappointment. And I know many people that are big Arsenal fans, and they're so disappointed and so disillusioned because they haven't won anything for 5 years, yet they still sometimes play this amazing football, and somehow it's very sad in a way in our society that isn't good enough.
Well, they must be fairly new supporters, these people. They must be, you know, since the golden years, you know, the year where we went unbeaten. You know, then that's their mark, but it's not my mark. My mark is the only team that's never been out of the first division since
top division,
top division since they went in after the First World War. They were voted in. They were voted in. When they didn't even deserve to go in. But since then, they've never been down, and they're the only team that's never been down. So it's been up and down, but not too far down, but often to the top. And you know, I wouldn't. I mean, they have my loyalty forever, of course.
So, you've had a pretty remarkable life.
Yeah.
You're still in a wonderful flow of life.
Yeah.
And you still seem pretty happy.
Yeah. I'm happy.
Yeah, great.
So that.
We need to finish in about a minute. Anything you'd like to say in the last minute?
Well, that I don't find that this beauty and flow and happiness that I have found is particularly special, and can only only a few people can arrive at such a state. I feel that it's open for everybody. But of course it does require a kind of commitment. Not necessarily a commitment in the sense of doing things all the time, meditating, going to seminars, but like an inner feeling that that's what you want. I mean, that's so important. When I said what I told you earlier, I've decided to get enlightened in this lifetime, which was meaningless to me at the time, but as if something was planted in me and saying, well, I'm going to enjoy myself, I'm going to do 1,000 different things, I'm going to travel, I'm going to have lots of relationships and so on, I'm going to have children, I have 7 children, so all this is going to be part of my life, but somehow something inside me is set due north, my compass. So, and even when I'm not bothering about it, or even acknowledging it, it's working towards that pole. I think that is necessary. Apart from that, it can happen to anybody.
Okay. Thank you, Michael.
Welcome.
And thank you everyone for watching Michael Barnett on Conscious TV. And I hope we see you again soon. Goodbye.